Hey guys, tonight we are traveling back to a place where a simple breeze was caught in a fold of paper and a tiny piece of bamboo held the weight of a person's entire social standing. We are heading to the bustling, yet strangely quiet streets of Edo, Japan, where the art of the fan was much more than just a way to stay cool during a humid summer afternoon. You probably believe that a fan is just a simple accessory, a bit of paper on a stick to wave around when the sun gets a little too friendly. In reality, in the 18th century, your fan was basically your smartphone, your business card, and your fashion statement all rolled into one. And if you carried the wrong one to the wrong party, the social fallout was worse than accidentally hitting reply all on a company-wide email before you get too comfortable and possibly fall asleep halfway through. Tap like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this odd mix of boredom and history. It keeps the channel alive and the stories just sleepy enough to help you drift off again next time. I'd love to hear where you're listening from tonight. Drop your location and what time it is for you in the comments. It's always nice to know who is drifting off with us across the different time zones of the world. Now, dim the lights, let the world outside grow quiet, and turn on a fan if you like that soft, steady hum in the background. Let your shoulders loosen and your breathing slow. This is your time to drift. No rush, no deadlines, no noise. Just you, a little warmth in the air, and the faint whisper of history waiting to unfold. So, settle in, and let's ease gently into tonight's journey together. The light of the sun is a very soft thing when it first touches the city of Edo. It does not crash through the windows like a modern alarm clock, but rather filters gently through the paper screens of your workshop, turning the dark corners of the room into a warm, hazy gold. You lie still for a moment on your futon, listening to the world wake up. The city outside is a massive, living thing, housing over 1 million people, making it one of the largest and most vibrant urban centers on the entire planet during this era. Even from your quiet corner, you can hear the distant, muffled sounds of the morning. There is the rhythmic call of a vendor selling fresh fermented soybeans, a sound that has signaled the start of the day for generations. You hear the soft, sweeping sound of a neighbor's broom against the packed earth of the street, and the occasional splash of water as someone clears the dust from their doorstep. You push back the heavy quilts, feeling the cool morning air touch your skin. It is a refreshing contrast to the warmth of the bed, a gentle nudge to begin your day. Your movements are slow and deliberate as you fold the bedding and tuck it away into a deep cupboard. The room is small, but it feels spacious because it is so empty. In this world, luxury is found in the quality of the materials and the precision of the craftsmanship, not in the clutter of possessions. You slide open the shoji screens, those delicate frames of wood and translucent paper that act as the walls of your home. They move with a quiet, wooden sigh, revealing the small garden courtyard outside. The moss is still damp with dew, a deep, vibrant green that seems to glow in the early light, and a single stone lantern stands like a silent guardian among the ferns. The air carries the faint scent of charcoal smoke and the earthy aroma of damp wood. You move toward the small kitchen area to prepare your first bowl of tea. The iron kettle is already resting over a small bed of glowing coals, and the water inside is beginning to sing. It is a low, steady hum that matches the rhythm of your own breathing. You pour the water over the powdered green tea, watching as it transforms into a frothy, emerald liquid. The steam rises in a thin, twisting column, carrying with it a scent that is both bitter and sweet, a perfect reflection of the artisan's life. You take a sip, the heat spreading through your chest, and you feel the last remnants of sleep start to fade away. It is a quiet moment of preparation before the real work begins. You find your way to the low wooden table that serves as your workbench. This table has been in your family for 3 generations, and its surface is polished to a high sheen by the touch of countless hands and the sliding of thousands of sheets of paper. It is your entire world, the place where imagination becomes a physical object that someone will hold, treasure, and use to navigate the complex social waters of the city. To your left, a stack of washi paper waits for you. This is not the mass-produced paper you might find in a modern office. It is a handmade product of incredible strength and character. It is made from the inner bark of the mulberry tree, which has been soaked, pounded, and stretched by skilled hands in the mountains before traveling to the city. When you hold a sheet up to the light, you can see the long, swirling fibers that give it its resilience. It feels warm and almost organic, like a second skin. The history of the folding fan, or the sensu, is a subject that brings a quiet pride to the people of this land. While many things in Edo have their roots in distant lands, the folding fan is often claimed as a purely local invention. Historians still argue whether the folding fan was actually a Japanese invention, inspired by the delicate, rhythmic folding of a bat's wings, or if the concept migrated from China in a much simpler form before being perfected here. Regardless of its origin, by the time you are sitting at your bench in the 18th century, the fan has become an indispensable part of life. It is used by everyone from the highest shogun to the lowest merchant. Though the rules governing what kind of fan you can carry are as strict as the laws of the land, the fan you are preparing to create today is not a simple tool for moving air. It is a canvas for a story. In the guild system of Edo, being a fan maker means you are part of a highly organized and respected community. Each artisan has their specialty, and the guilds ensure that the quality of the work remains high and that the secrets of the trade are kept within the circle. It is a world of rules and traditions, but within those boundaries there is an incredible amount of freedom to express beauty. You run your hand over the surface of the paper, feeling its slight texture. You know that soon, this flat sheet will be pleated into a series of sharp, rhythmic folds, a process that requires a steady hand and a deep understanding of the material's memory. You think about the quirky reality of these objects. For a samurai, a fan can be more than just a piece of art. It can be a hidden safeguard. There is a tradition of the tessen, or the war fan, which is made with ribs of solid iron. To the casual observer, it looks like a standard folding fan, but in the hands of a trained warrior, it becomes a blunt weapon or a shield capable of parrying a sword strike. It is a bit of a historical irony that something so associated with grace and cooling breezes could also be a tool of defense. While you are not making a weapon today, you carry that same sense of weight and importance into your work. Every stroke of your brush and every fold of your paper must be perfect. For a fan is often the first thing people notice when a person enters a room. Your workshop is organized with a precision that would make a modern minimalist jealous. Everything has a place, and every tool is cared for with a level of respect that borders on the spiritual. Your brushes are stored in a bamboo holder, their tips pointing upward to protect the delicate hairs. They are made from a variety of animals: rabbit, sheep, and even the fine whiskers of a rat, each chosen for the specific way it holds and releases ink. Your inkstone is a heavy, dark slab of slate with a shallow depression for water. To prepare your ink, you take a solid stick of sumi, which is made from the soot of burned pine trees, and a special glue, and you begin to rub it against the stone with a few drops of water. The motion is circular and slow, a rhythmic task that allows your mind to settle into a state of focused calm. The sound of the dry ink stick meeting the wet stone is a soft, sliding whisper that fills the quiet room. As you grind, the water slowly darkens, turning from a clear liquid into a deep, lustrous black that seems to swallow the light. This ink is the lifeblood of your art. It has a subtle, smoky scent that reminds you of old temples and ancient scrolls. You test the consistency with a small dip of your finger, looking for that perfect balance between fluid and thick. It is a task that cannot be rushed. If you hurry, the ink will be gritty and uneven. If you are too slow, the water may evaporate. It requires a presence of mind that is the hallmark of the Edo artisan. You could call this preparation your morning meditation, though no one in the 18th century would use such a trendy word. It is simply the way things are done. You find yourself thinking about the city outside as the sun climbs higher. The bridges over the Sumida River will be crowded now, with people moving back and forth in a constant stream. There will be samurai in their formal robes, their two swords tucked into their belts as a sign of their rank. There will be merchants haggling over the price of silk and rice, and geisha moving gracefully through the streets of the pleasure districts, their fans held just so to shield their faces from the gaze of the curious. Every one of those people relies on the work of hands like yours to provide the finishing touch to their public identity. The fan is a social language. A person might use their fan to signal their interest in a conversation, or to subtly indicate that they wish to be left alone. A certain flick of the wrist, or a specific way of holding the fan, can convey a wealth of meaning without a single word being spoken. You are not just a painter, you are a provider of the tools for human connection. It is a responsibility that you take seriously, even as you find a moment to smile at the thought of a particularly clumsy nobleman trying to use a fan to hide his boredom during a long ceremony. The fan is a great equalizer in that way. It can hide a yawn as easily as it can accentuate a smile. As you finish preparing the ink, you turn your attention back to the washi paper. Before any paint can touch the surface, the paper must be treated. You apply a thin layer of sizing, a mixture of alum and animal glue, which will prevent the ink from spreading too quickly into the fibers. This allows for the sharp, crisp lines that characterize the best fan paintings. You use a wide, soft brush to apply the liquid, moving in long, even strokes across the sheet. The paper darkens slightly as it absorbs the moisture, and the room is filled with the faint, medicinal scent of the sizing. You have to be careful not to use too much, or the paper will become brittle. It is all about the balance, a theme that seems to run through every aspect of your life. While the paper dries, you take a moment to look out at your garden again. The light has shifted, and the shadows of the bamboo are dancing across the moss. You think about the designs you will create today, perhaps a scene from a famous play, or a simple arrangement of autumn leaves swirling in a stream. The people of Edo love nature, but they also love the fleeting, floating world of the city, the theaters, the tea houses, and the seasonal festivals. Your fans are a way for them to carry a piece of that beauty with them wherever they go. You realize that your work is a bridge between the permanent and the ephemeral, a sturdy object that captures a passing moment in time. If you think your own workspace is quiet, you should imagine the focus required for the next step. Once the paper is dry, you will need to cut it into the iconic arc shape of the fan. This requires a sharp blade and a very steady hand. There is no room for error here. If the curve is off by even a fraction, the fan will not fold correctly, and all your hard work will be for nothing. You take a deep breath, feeling the air fill your lungs and your shoulders drop away from your ears. You pick up the cutting tool, its steel blade gleaming in the sunlight. You are no longer just a person in a room. You are an extension of the tools and the materials. This is the gentle art of the fan, a process that begins with the mist of the morning and ends with a piece of history that fits in the palm of a hand. You find yourself reflecting on how lucky you are to have this life. While the work is demanding and the standards are high, there is a profound satisfaction in creating something from start to finish. In a world that can often feel chaotic and unpredictable, the act of making a fan provides a sense of order and purpose. You are part of a long lineage of creators, people who have looked at a piece of wood and a sheet of paper and seen the potential for something extraordinary. As the city of Edo hums with life beyond your walls, you settle into your seat, the first light of the day now fully illuminating your workspace. The journey of the fan has begun, and you are ready to follow wherever the brush leads. The process of making a fan is a slow one, and that is exactly why it is so rewarding. In this early stage, you are building the foundation. Without the right paper, the right ink, and the right mindset, the final product will never reach its potential. You understand that the beauty of the fan lies not just in the final painting, but in every hidden step that came before it. The way the mulberry bark was harvested, the way the ink was ground, and the way you are sitting at this very moment. All of it contributes to the soul of the object. You take one last sip of your tea, the liquid now cool but still refreshing, and you set the bowl aside. The day is unfolding, and there is much to be done before the sun sets, and the stars take their turn to watch over the city. The morning air has lost its initial chill, replaced by the rising warmth of a sun that seems determined to wake every corner of the city. You step out from the quiet sanctuary of your workshop, the wooden door sliding shut with a soft, familiar sound of cedar meeting cedar. Your first steps onto the street are careful as your wooden sandals, the gaiter, find their rhythm on the packed earth and smooth stones of the path. The sound they make is a steady, rhythmic tapping that blends into the larger symphony of the Edo morning. You find yourself wishing the streets were paved with something slightly softer than stone, perhaps something like the fluffy clouds drifting above. though the practical reality of mud and dust makes you grateful for the height your sandals provide. It is a small price to pay for keeping your robes clean, even if walking in them feels like a constant exercise in balancing on tiny stilts. The city is wide and vast, a sprawling network of canals, bridges, and narrow alleys that all seem to lead toward the heart of commerce. As you walk, you pass rows of low, slung buildings with tiled roofs that shimmer like fish scales in the sunlight. You see the blue banners of the shops snapping in the breeze, each marked with the bold white symbols of the families that run them. The air here is different from the stillness of your garden. It is thick with the scent of grilled eel from a nearby kitchen, the sharp tang of salt from the fish markets, and the pervasive, earthy smell of the canal water that flows like veins through the city. You cross a small, arched bridge, pausing for a moment to look down at the water. A flat-bottomed boat is being pushed along by a man with a long bamboo pole, the water rippling out in gentle, silver circles behind him. It is a slow way to move, but in this world, speed is rarely the point. Your destination is the district where the color merchants keep their shops, a place where the earth itself is bottled and sold in tiny, precious portions. You find the shop you are looking for by the scent long before you see the sign. It is a deep, heavy smell of minerals, dried plants, and the faint, sweet aroma of animal glue. Inside, the shop is cool and dim, a sharp contrast to the bright street. Rows of ceramic jars line the walls from floor to ceiling, each one containing a different secret of the natural world. There are no bright labels or neon signs here. Instead, the merchant knows the location of every shade by heart, a mental map of the rainbow stored in the silence of the room. You watch as the merchant begins to gather the materials you need for your fans. He uses a small bamboo scoop to transfer powders from the jars into squares of sturdy paper, which he then folds into neat, secure packets. First comes the white, known as gofen. This is not made from lead or chalk, but from the shells of oysters that have been aged for years, sometimes even decades, in the wind and rain, until they lose their organic smell and become pure, brittle calcium. Historians still argue whether the transition to using these specific shells over older mineral whites happened out of a need for a smoother texture, or simply because the coastal regions had an excess of shells that needed a creative purpose. Regardless of the reason, the result is a white so deep and matte that it seems to absorb the light around it, providing the perfect base for the more vibrant colors to follow. Next, you ask for the greens and blues, the colors of the mountains and the sky. The merchant reaches for a jar containing malachite, a heavy green stone that must be ground by hand into various grades of coarseness. The larger the grain, the deeper and more intense the green. The finer the powder, the paler and more delicate the shade. It is a bit of a historical quirk that the most beautiful greens in your paintings come from a stone that is also used to make copper. It is as if you are painting with the very essence of the earth's hidden treasures. The blue, derived from azurite, follows the same principle. These are mineral pigments, heavy and permanent, and they are incredibly expensive. You realize that a single small packet of high-quality azurite can cost as much as a month's supply of rice for a small family. It is a reminder that beauty in Edo is often a luxury that requires both sacrifice and a very steady hand. As you wait, your eyes wander to a small jar tucked away in a corner, containing a vibrant, almost electric blue. This is the famous Prussian blue, a synthetic pigment that has recently begun to find its way into Japan through the Dutch trading post in Nagasaki. This Berlin blue is a mainstream historical fact of the era, a color that would eventually revolutionize the world of Japanese woodblock prints and fan painting. It is much stronger and more transparent than the traditional mineral blues, allowing artists to create deep, moody skies and crashing waves with a clarity that was previously impossible. You consider buying a small amount, thinking of how it might look on a fan depicting the Great Bridge in a rainstorm. But you decide to stick with the traditional materials for now. There is a certain comfort in the weight and history of the stones. The red pigment, or beanie, is perhaps the most precious of all. It is derived from the petals of the safflower, a plant that requires an incredible amount of labor to process. Thousands of petals are needed to produce just a tiny amount of the concentrated red dye. In fact, the price of the highest quality safflower red was so high during this period that people often joked you could either buy a small jar of the pigment or a small house on the edge of the city. Most artists, being slightly obsessed with their craft, would naturally choose the paint and simply figure out the housing situation later. This pigment is unique because it can appear as a deep, lustrous red when applied thickly, but when it is polished, it takes on a shimmering, metallic green luster that is prized by the elite. It is the color of sunset and the color of the most expensive silk robes, a symbol of status that everyone in Edo recognizes instantly. You also secure a small amount of cinnabar, a heavy, toxic mineral that provides a bright, opaque red. You handle the packet with care, knowing that while it produces a stunning color, it is not something you want to be too casual with. The world of the artisan is full of these small dangers. Minerals that can make you ill, sharp blades that can slip, and the constant pressure to produce perfection. Yet, there is a deep satisfaction in mastering these elements, in taking the raw, sometimes hazardous materials of the world and turning them on a piece of paper into a delicate flower or a soaring bird. It is a way of domesticating the wildness of nature, of capturing its power without being overwhelmed by it. With your packets of color safely tucked into the folds of your sleeves, you begin the journey back to your workshop. The city has become even busier now. You pass a group of children playing a game with small stones, their laughter a bright, clear sound that rises above the hum of the crowd. You see a group of monks moving in a slow, silent line, their large straw hats obscuring their faces as they offer their begging bowls to the passers-by. There is a sense of order in the chaos, a feeling that everyone has their place and their purpose in this massive, human clockwork. You feel a sudden wave of gratitude for your own place in it. You are the one who captures the colors of this world and gives them back to the people in a form they can carry with them. The walk back feels shorter, perhaps because your mind is already busy mixing the colors you have just purchased. You imagine the way the white gofen will look when it is layered over the brown fibers of the washi paper, creating a luminous surface that seems to glow from within. You think about the way the malachite green will contrast with the deep red of the safflower. Painting a fan is not just about the final image. It is about the chemistry of the materials. You have to understand how much water to add to each pigment and how the glue, or nikawa, will bind the powder to the paper. If you use too much glue, the paint will crack and peel as the fan is opened and closed. If you use too much water, the colors will be thin and lifeless. It is a delicate dance of proportions, a science that is learned through years of trial and error. You recall a quirky tidbit you once heard from an old master who claimed that the best water for mixing blues was collected from the morning dew on the leaves of a specific type of lily. While you suspect that might have been more of a poetic exaggeration than a practical requirement, it speaks to the level of devotion that artisans bring to their work. Everything matters: the temperature of the room, the humidity in the air, even the mood of the person holding the brush. You find yourself smiling at the thought of chasing dewdrops across a field just to make a slightly better shade of blue. It is exactly the kind of beautiful, slightly ridiculous thing an artist would do. As you reach the quieter streets near your home, you notice the way the light filters through the trees, casting long, dappled shadows on the ground. These are the patterns you will soon be trying to replicate. The natural world is your greatest teacher, and every walk through the city is a lesson in observation. You look at the way the bark of a pine tree is textured with deep ridges, and the way the willow branches weep toward the water of the canal. You notice the specific shade of a dragonfly's wing as it darts past you, a shimmer of iridescent light that is there one moment and gone the next. To be a fan painter is to be a professional observer of the fleeting. You are a hunter of moments, looking for that one perfect arrangement of light and shadow that will make someone pause and catch their breath. Back inside your workshop, the silence feels heavy and welcoming. You set your precious packets on the workbench, arranging them with the same care you would use for a set of religious icons. The process of preparing the paints is a slow one, requiring you to grind the pigments even further on a small ceramic plate. You add a few drops of the warm glue solution, using your finger to work the powder into a smooth, thick paste. The sensation of the cold mineral against your skin is grounding. It is said that a master can tell the quality of a pigment by the way it feels between their thumb and forefinger, which is a great skill until you realize your fingers are permanently stained bright orange or deep blue for the rest of the week. You accept this as the mark of your trade, a physical manifestation of the work you do. The room is filled with the low, steady sound of the muller moving against the plate, a rhythmic grinding that is almost hypnotic. As the pigments are transformed into paint, the workshop begins to take on the colors of the world outside. The small bowls on your table are soon filled with vibrant puddles of liquid emerald, sapphire, and ruby. You take a moment to admire the palette you have created. It is a small, concentrated version of the garden, the city, and the mountains. You think about the luxury bans or sumptuary laws that the government occasionally imposes on the people of Edo. These laws are meant to prevent the merchant class from displaying too much wealth, often forbidding the use of certain expensive silks or extravagant colors in public clothing. However, fans often provide a clever loophole, because a fan is a personal item that can be folded away. It can hide a wealth of forbidden color and intricate detail within its pleats, only to be revealed in a single, graceful motion. This hidden luxury is a hallmark of the Edo spirit. It is the ideal of Ukiyo-e, a sophisticated sense of style that is understated and refined, rather than loud and boastful. A fan that looks simple from a distance, but reveals a masterpiece of color and gold leaf upon closer inspection, is the ultimate expression of this philosophy. You feel a sense of pride in being part of this culture of subtle rebellion. Your fans are not just accessories. They are small acts of defiance against the drabness of the rules, a way for people to carry beauty and individuality in their pockets. You realize that the work you are doing is a service to the spirit of the city itself. The sun has reached its peak now, and the light in the workshop is at its strongest. This is the best time for color work, as you can see the true nature of the pigments without the distortions of shadow. You prepare your brushes, selecting the ones with the finest tips for the initial outlines. Your hand is steady, your mind is clear, and the materials are ready. The journey through the city to gather these colors was a necessary step, a way of connecting your work to the earth and the community. Now, it is time to turn inward again, to focus on the small, curved world of the fan leaf. The colors of nature are waiting to be reborn on the surface of the washi paper, and you are the one who will guide them there. You take a deep breath, the scent of the minerals and the glue filling your senses. The world outside continues its frantic pace, but here, time has slowed down to the speed of a drying brush stroke. You are ready to begin the painting, to weave together the threads of history, nature, and craftsmanship into something that will eventually catch a breeze and bring a moment of cool relief to a person in the heat of the afternoon. The pigments are no longer just dust and stones. They are the potential for a story that has not yet been told. You dip your brush into the deep blue of the azurite, the hairs soaking up the color, and you lean toward the paper. The first stroke is always the most important, a promise made to the material that you will treat it with the respect it deserves. As the first line of blue appears on the white surface, you feel a sense of rightness. The preparation is over, and the creation has begun. The colors of the earth have found a new home, and under your steady hand, they will become something more than the sum of their parts. This is the gentle art of painting a fan, a process that is as much about the journey as it is about the destination. You settle into your seat, the world narrowing down to the tip of your brush and the texture of the paper, and you begin to paint the dreams of Edo. The vibrant colors of your painting are now resting on the washi paper, slowly sinking into the mulberry fibers as the moisture evaporates into the afternoon air. You set the painted leaf aside in a safe, dust-free corner where the gentle drafts of the workshop can finish the job of drying. Now, your attention must shift from the fluid world of ink to the rigid, architectural world of bamboo. If the painting is the soul of the fan, the frame is its skeleton, providing the strength and the mechanism that allows it to disappear and reappear with a flick of the wrist. You reach for a bundle of seasoned bamboo, feeling the cool, waxy surface of the stalks. This material is the backbone of Japan, used for everything from houses to tea whisks. But for a fan, it must be of the highest quality. This bamboo was harvested years ago, during the cold winter months when the sap was low, preventing the wood from cracking or attracting hungry beetles. It has been stored in the rafters of a farmhouse, where the smoke from the hearth has slowly turned it a deep, honeyed brown. This smoking process is a mainstream historical fact of the era, a traditional method of curing that makes the bamboo incredibly resilient and flexible. You pick up a single length, admiring the straightness of the grain. To an outsider, it looks like a simple stick, but you see the potential for the delicate ribs that will soon support your art. You find yourself thinking that bamboo is essentially the 18th century version of titanium, lightweight, incredibly strong, and unfortunately, just as likely to give you a very annoying splinter if you don't treat it with respect. You begin by splitting the bamboo. You use a small, heavy knife with a thick spine, placing the blade at the top of the stalk and applying a steady, downward pressure. The wood yields with a clean, sliding sound as it splits perfectly along the vertical fibers. You repeat this process, dividing the pieces again and again, until you have a collection of thin, flat slats. These will become the ribs, or the bones, of the fan. The two outer ribs, known as the guard sticks, need to be thicker and stronger, as they protect the inner ribs and the delicate paper when the fan is closed. You select two pieces of particularly dense bamboo for this task, feeling the extra weight in your hand. Now comes the work of carving. You sit on your heels, the shavings of bamboo curling around your feet like tiny pale ribbons. You use a variety of small, razor-sharp chisels and planes to taper each rib. They must be thickest at the bottom, where they will be joined by a pivot pin, and become progressively thinner and more flexible toward the top. This tapering is what allows the fan to open in a perfect, graceful arc. It is a task that requires immense patience. If you carve too much, the rib will snap under the tension of the paper. If you carve too little, the fan will be bulky and difficult to fold. You work by feel as much as by sight, running your thumb along the edge of the wood to check for any irregularities. As you work, you recall a quirky tidbit about the elite fans of the imperial court. While you are working with humble, beautiful bamboo, the highest ranking nobles often commissioned fans with ribs made of whalebone, or even ivory imported from distant lands. Some were even made of solid sandalwood, so that every time the user opened the fan, a wave of sweet, spicy perfume would fill the air. It is a bit of a historical joke that, while a commoner's fan was meant to move the air, a nobleman's fan was meant to change the scent of it entirely. You imagine someone waving a sandalwood fan so vigorously that they lose the ability to smell their own tea, a level of luxury that seems both wonderful and slightly impractical. Historians still argue whether the inspiration for the folding mechanism of the fan came from the observation of a bat's wing, or if it evolved from the ancient Ukiyo-e, which were fans made entirely of thin wooden slats tied together at the top. The idea of using paper to bridge the gaps between the slats was a revolutionary step that allowed for much larger surfaces to be painted and displayed. You find the bat's wing theory particularly charming, imagining an ancient artisan watching a bat settle into the rafters and realizing that nature had already solved the problem of portable surface area. Whether it was a bat or a clever courtier, the result is a masterpiece of geometry that you are currently recreating. The pile of shavings grows, and the air in the workshop is filled with the clean, grassy scent of fresh, cut bamboo. Once the ribs are carved to the correct thickness, you begin the process of refining their shape. You use a piece of dried horsetail, a plant with a naturally abrasive surface, to sand the wood until it is as smooth as silk. This is a slow, rhythmic task that allows your mind to drift. You think about the mathematics of the fan. Each rib must be identical in length and curvature, or the final assembly will be lopsided. It is an exercise in precision that leaves no room for error. You could almost compare it to a complex puzzle, though unlike a modern puzzle, you have to manufacture all the pieces yourself from a single stalk of grass. Next, you must prepare the pivot point. You use a tiny, hand-turned drill to create a hole at the base of each rib. This is a moment of high tension. If the wood splits now, hours of carving will be wasted. You move the drill slowly, the metal bit eating into the bamboo with a soft, grinding resistance. Once all the holes are drilled, you align the ribs and pass a temporary pin through them. You fan them out, watching how they move against each other. They slide with a satisfying, wooden friction, a series of overlapping lines that create a skeleton of perfect symmetry. It is a beautiful thing even without the paper, a testament to the hidden engineering that goes into every piece of art. While the ribs are resting, you return to the painted paper. It is now dry, the colors fixed and vibrant. But a flat piece of paper cannot be a folding fan. You must teach the paper how to bend. This is done using a kata, a set of two heavy, pre-pleated boards made of thick, lacquered paper. You place your painted leaf between these two boards, carefully aligning the design with the existing folds. You then press the boards together, using the weight of your body to force the washi paper into the rhythmic, accordion-like pattern. You leave the paper in the press for a short time, allowing its memory to set. When you finally remove the paper from the press, it has been transformed. It is no longer a flat sheet, but a three-dimensional object, a series of sharp peaks and valleys that catch the light in a new way. This pleating is where the magic of the fan truly begins. The design you painted now disappears and reappears as you move the paper. A bird that was flying across a flat sky is now hidden in a shadow, only to emerge when the fold is stretched tight. It is a dynamic form of art that requires the viewer to participate in the experience. You run your fingers over the sharp edges of the folds, feeling the crispness of the paper. It feels alive, ready to catch the wind. The final challenge of the frame is the assembly of the pockets. In a high-quality Japanese fan, the ribs are not simply glued to the back of the paper. Instead, the washi paper is actually split into two layers along the top edge, and the thin bamboo ribs are slid into the tiny space between them. This is an incredibly difficult technique that makes the fan look identical from both sides and ensures that the ribs never snag on the user's clothing. You use a thin, flat tool to carefully separate the fibers of the paper at the top of each pleat. It is a task that requires the focus of a surgeon and the touch of a ghost. One wrong move, and you will tear the very art you spent all morning painting. You find yourself smiling at the thought of how many people probably think fans are just glued together. If they only knew the hours spent spliting bamboo and prying apart paper fibers, they might treat their fans with a bit more reverence. It is the Ukiyo-e effect of the 18th century. Except you can't just go back to the store if you lose a screw or break a slat. You are the manufacturer, the quality control, and the assembly line all in one. There is a deep, quiet pride in knowing that every single part of this object has been shaped by your own hands, from the minerals in the paint to the grain of the bamboo. As the afternoon sun begins to mellow, casting longer shadows across your workbench, you take a moment to look at your progress. The ribs are carved and polished, the paper is pleated and ready, and the two halves of the creation are waiting to be joined. The geometry of the bamboo matches the geometry of the paper perfectly. It is a marriage of the organic and the mathematical, a reflection of the Japanese philosophy that beauty is found in the balance of opposing forces. You feel a sense of calm as you prepare for the final stages of the day. The hardest structural work is behind you, and the fan is starting to take on its final form. You think about the people who will eventually hold this fan. Perhaps it will be a young woman at a summer festival, using it to hide a shy smile as she watches the fireworks over the Sumida River. Or perhaps it will be a scholar, using the rhythmic opening and closing of the fan to help him think as he composes a poem. Regardless of who owns it, they will feel the weight of the bamboo and the crispness of the paper, and they will know, even if only subconsciously, that it was made with care. The fan is a bridge between the artisan and the world, a small, portable breeze that carries the spirit of the workshop out into the busy streets of Edo. You take a final look at the guard sticks. You decide to give them a slight polish with a piece of silk, bringing out the deep, warm glow of the smoked bamboo. They look like pieces of polished amber, strong and elegant. They are the guardians of the art within, the first thing a person feels when they pick up the fan. You realize that in many ways, you are like these guard sticks, protecting and supporting the beauty of the traditions you have inherited. The workshop is quiet now, the only sound being the distant chime of a temple bell signaling the approach of evening. You settle back on your heels, stretching your back, and feeling the satisfying ache of a day well spent. The folding shadows and the geometry of the bamboo are now one, and the fan is almost ready to take flight. The afternoon sun has begun its slow, golden descent, stretching the shadows of the eaves across the wooden floor of your workshop. The light is different now. It is thicker, more amber, and it catches the dust motes dancing in the air like tiny, silent spirits. You turn back to your workbench, where the pleated washi paper sits, its mountain and valley folds creating a miniature landscape of light and shadow. This is the moment where the floating world, or Ukiyo-e, begins to breathe on the surface of your work. You pick up the inkstone you prepared earlier this morning, the sumi ink now perfectly settled and rich. It is a deep, velvety black that seems to hold the weight of the coming evening. You find yourself thinking that the floating world sounds like a lovely, peaceful name for a luxury spa, but in the heart of Edo, it really refers to the hedonistic, transient nature of life. The idea that since everything is temporary, we might as well make it as beautiful and fun as possible. It is a bit like the 18th century version of living for the weekend, except the weekend involves a lot more silk and significantly more complicated hairstyles. You choose a brush with a long, slender tip, made from the finest rabbit hair. It is designed for the hoka, or pulling stroke, which requires a steady hand and a calm heart. Before you touch the paper, you close your eyes for a moment, letting the sounds of the city wash over you. You hear the distant, rhythmic thumping of a wooden mallet as a neighbor softens some fabric, and the faint, melodic whistling of a bird in the garden. These are the threads of reality that you will weave into your painting. Floating World is not just about the famous actors or the beautiful courtesans. It is about the way a cherry blossom petals fall into a stream, or the way a traveler's straw hat sits at a jaunty angle. You are not just a painter of objects, you are a painter of the ephemeral, the just for now, moments that make life in Edo so vibrant. The challenge of painting on a pleated fan is one that would make most modern artists throw their brushes out the window in a fit of frustration. Because the paper is already folded, you are not working on a flat surface. You have to account for the way the image will distort when the fan is partially closed or fully extended. It is a bit like trying to paint a mural on a staircase while someone is constantly moving the steps. You have to visualize the entire composition in your head, knowing that a single brush stroke will cross multiple mountains and valleys of the paper. Historians still argue whether the transition of the word Ukiyo from a Buddhist term of sorrow and impermanence to a secular word for hedonistic pleasure was a deliberate social rebellion against the strictures of the shogunate, or simply a natural linguistic twist that happened as the merchant class gained more wealth and leisure time. Either way, your brush is the tool that captures this shift, turning old ideas of suffering into new visions of grace. You begin with the background, a light wash of ink diluted with water until it is the color of a rainy sky. You move the brush in a sweeping, horizontal motion, letting the bristles glide over the peaks of the pleats. The ink settles into the valleys, creating a natural sense of depth and perspective without you having to do much work at all. It is a small victory, a moment where the materials cooperate with your vision. You find yourself smiling at the thought of a novice painter trying to fight the folds, ending up with more ink on their fingers than on the paper. It is a reminder that in the world of the fan, you must work with the nature of the object, not against it. You could call it a lesson in flexibility, though your back, which has been hunched over this table for several hours, might strongly disagree with that assessment. As the wash dries, you decide to paint a scene from a popular kabuki play. The people of Edo are obsessed with the theater. They know the actors by name, their signature poses, and even their favorite snacks. Fans featuring these stars are the 18th century equivalent of a movie poster or a band T-shirt, and they are high in demand. You decide to capture the dramatic me pose, where the actor freezes in a moment of intense emotion, eyes wide and one foot stamped firmly on the ground. You use a thicker, darker ink for the outlines of the robes, the brush moving with a sudden, sharp energy. There is a rhythm to this work, a dance between the stillness of your body and the motion of your hand. You have to be decisive. The washi paper is incredibly absorbent, and if you hesitate for even a second, the ink will bloom into an unintended blotch. The quirkiness of these fan paintings often lies in the details that only the owner would notice. You decide to tuck a tiny, almost invisible symbol into the pattern of the actor's kimono, a small family crest that belongs to a famous tea house. It is a bit of a historical Easter egg, a hidden nod to the interconnected world of Edo's social scene. Some fans even served as cheat sheets for theater goers, featuring the names of the performers or the lyrics to the most popular songs on the reverse side. It is a bit of a historical joke that while someone looked like they were just gracefully cooling themselves during a performance, they were actually frantically checking the fan to remember which actor was playing the villain. You enjoy adding these layers of meaning, knowing that a fan is a conversation piece as much as a tool. The scent of the ink is stronger now, a deep, woody aroma that anchors you to the present. You switch to a smaller brush to handle the facial features of the actor. This is the most delicate part of the entire process. A single millimeter can change an expression from one of heroic defiance to one of mild confusion. You hold your breath as you dot the pupils of the eyes, the tiny points of black ink giving the character life. It is a strange, wonderful feeling to see a person emerge from a few strokes of carbon and glue. You feel a sense of companionship with the image, as if the actor is watching you finish the work. The floating world is full of these ghosts of beauty, captured for a moment on paper before they fade away into the history of the city. You remember the colors you gathered earlier, the azurite blue and the cinnabar red. Now is the time to bring them into the play. You use the blue to paint the swirling patterns of a river at the bottom of the fan, the mineral pigment catching the light with a subtle, stony glitter. The red goes into the lining of the actor's sleeves, a pop of vibrant energy that draws the eye. You have to be careful not to overwork the colors. The beauty of a fan painting often lies in its yohaku, or empty space. The white of the paper is just as important as the ink and the paint. It represents the air, the wind, and the space between thoughts. In a world as crowded as Edo, having a little bit of empty space in the palm of your hand is a true luxury. You find your mind wandering to the hidden fans of the city. There is a fringe historical tidbit that suggests some fans were used by undercover agents of the shogunate to signal to one another across a crowded marketplace. A specific way of holding a fan, or a certain color revealed in the folds, could mean the difference between a successful mission and a trip to the local magistrate. While you are just a simple artist, you like the idea that your work could be part of such a mysterious world. It makes the act of painting feel slightly more like being a spy, which is a nice distraction from the fact that you've been sitting in the same spot for so long that your left leg has completely fallen asleep. You give it a little shake, a dull thud of your foot against the mat being the only sound in the quiet room. As you work, you think about the mainstream historical fact that fan painting was often a collaborative effort in larger workshops. One person might do the backgrounds, another the figures, and a third the delicate calligraphy. But here, in your own small space, you are the master of every element. There is a profound sense of ownership in that. You are responsible for every line, every shade, and every choice. It is a heavy burden, but also a source of great freedom. You are not just following a template. You are expressing a vision of the world as you see it. You see the grace in the tilt of a head, the power in the curve of a wave, and the humor in the way a city dog chases its tail. All of it finds its way onto the paper, a collection of dreams of ink that will soon be carried through the streets. The light in the workshop is fading now, turning a deep, bruised purple as the sun disappears behind the rooftops of the city. You light a small oil lamp, the flame flickering and casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. The warm glow changes the way the colors look on the fan, making the reds deeper and the blues more mysterious. This is how the fan will be seen most of the time, by the light of lanterns and candles in the evening. You adjust your technique, adding a few more highlights of white gofen to the edges of the robes to ensure they catch the flickering light. You want the fan to be just as beautiful at midnight as it is at noon. You take a moment to look at the overall composition. The actor is now fully realized, standing in a swirl of river water and falling blossoms. The lines are sharp where they need to be and soft where they need to blend. You feel a sense of satisfaction, the kind that only comes from finishing a difficult task. The geometry of the bamboo frame you built earlier is now waiting to support this vision. You think about how the fan will feel when it is finally assembled. The way the weight of the bamboo will balance the lightness of the paper. It is a marriage of the solid and the fluid, a perfect representation of the artisan's life. As you clean your brushes in a bowl of clear water, watching the ink swirl away like a miniature storm, you reflect on the floating world. Once more, it is a world of beauty, but it is also a world of hard work. The actors on the stage spend years perfecting a single gesture, and the courtesans spend hours on their makeup and dress. You, the artist, spend your days hunched over a bench, grinding stones into powder and chasing the perfect line. There is a dignity in this effort, a sense that beauty is something that must be earned. It is not just a gift, it is a craft. You are a part of that craft, a link in a chain that stretches back centuries and will continue long after you are gone. You decide to call it a day, though there is still much to do tomorrow. The gold leaf and the final assembly are waiting, but for now, the ink needs time to settle and the artist needs time to rest. You blow out the lamp, the room plunging into a soft, velvety darkness. The scent of the ink and the bamboo remains, a comforting reminder of the work you have done. You move toward your futon, your movements slow and weary, but your mind is still full of the images you have created. The dreams of ink will continue in your sleep, and tomorrow you will wake up and bring them fully into the light. You find yourself thinking about the city outside, where the lanterns are now being lit and the floating world is coming to its most vibrant life. Somewhere out there, a person is already carrying a fan you made last month, using it to navigate the cool evening air. That thought is your last before sleep begins to take hold. The idea that your art is out there in the world, living its own life, catching the breeze and telling its own story. The gentle art of the fan is a quiet one, but its reach is long and its beauty is timeless. You close your eyes, the rhythm of your breathing matching the slow, steady pulse of the city of Edo, and you drift off into a world where everything is beautiful and everything is just for now. The morning returns with a soft, persistent light that seems to seep through the paper walls like water through sand. You find yourself back at the workbench, the same polished surface, where your family's history is written in the faint scratches and ink stains of the past. Your body feels a little stiff from the previous day's labor, but there is a quiet, steady hum of purpose in your chest that keeps you moving. You look at the fan leaf you began yesterday, the ink now fully bonded with the mulberry fibers. In the harsh, clear light of early morning, the painting looks different, more honest, perhaps. You can see every place where your heart was steady and every tiny tremor, where the weight of the city outside briefly touched your hand. It is a bit like looking at a social media post from the night before and realizing you were perhaps a bit too enthusiastic with the filters, except in 18th century Edo, there is no delete button for a misplaced stroke of sumi ink. You begin by checking the consistency of your ink. It has settled in the stone, and you add a single drop of water, no more, no less. The balance of water and ink is the most crucial part of this stage. Too much water, and the ink will bleed into the valleys of the pleats, turning your sharp lines into a blurry mess that looks more like a damp basement than a refined piece of art. Too little water, and the brush will drag, leaving a scratchy, hesitant mark that betrays your lack of confidence. It is a bit like trying to find the perfect temperature for a bath. A millimeter of movement in the wrong direction, and you are either freezing or questioning your life choices. You stir the ink with the tip of a small brush, watching the way it swirls and clings to the hairs. The mainstream historical fact that often goes unmentioned in casual conversations about Japanese art is the vital role of nakawa, or animal glue. This glue, made from simmering the hides and bones of deer or cattle, is the secret binder that keeps the mineral pigments from simply falling off the paper. As soon as the fan is waved, you keep a small pot of it warming over a tiny charcoal brazier. If the glue gets too cold, it thickens into a jelly that is impossible to work with. If it gets too hot, it loses its strength. You are essentially a part-time chemist, a part-time chef, and a full-time artist, all while trying to maintain the outward appearance of a calm and detached philosopher. It is a lot of hats to wear, especially when your actual hat is a simple piece of straw, meant to keep the sun off your neck. You settle into the Caesar position, sitting on your heels with your back straight and your shoulders relaxed. This posture is supposed to foster a sense of internal balance and focus, but after an hour or so, it mostly fosters a sense that your knees have decided to go on strike and move to a different prefecture. You ignore the protest of your joints, focusing instead on the tip of your brush. You are about to begin the bokashi, or the shading technique, which gives the painting its sense of three-dimensional life. This requires two brushes, one loaded with pigment and one that is simply damp with clear water. You apply the color and then quickly, before it can dry, you use the water brush to pull the pigment across the paper, creating a soft, ethereal gradient. The precision required for this is staggering. Because you are working on a pleated surface, you have to move the brushes in a way that accounts for the varying heights of the paper. It is like trying to paint a sunset on a corrugated metal roof, but with the expectation that it will look like a masterpiece once you are finished. You find yourself holding your breath as the blue of the azurite meets the dampness of the paper. If you move too slowly, the line will be hard and ugly. If you move too quickly, you might skip over a fold entirely. You are operating with a level of focus that modern humans usually reserve for trying to untangle a pair of headphones or diffusing a very small, very colorful bomb. Historians still argue whether the specific curvature of the fan folds was standardized by government decree to ensure social order, or if it was simply a result of the organic limits of the bamboo used for the frames. Some believe that the number of pleats was a subtle code for rank. The more folds, the higher the status. You find yourself wondering if anyone actually counts the pleats when they meet a person, or if it is just another one of those rules that everyone follows without really knowing why. It is a bit like how people today still feel the need to say, "Bless you," when someone sneezes, even if they aren't entirely sure which demons they are currently warding off. You count your own pleats as you work, finding a strange, rhythmic comfort in the number. 24 peaks, 24 valleys. A perfect cycle. You switch to your smallest brush, one made from the whiskers of a mouse. This is a quirky tidbit of the trade. Different animals provide different types of tension. While rabbit hair is soft and holds a lot of water, the whiskers of a mouse are incredibly stiff and fine, allowing for lines that are almost invisible to the naked eye. You use this brush to add the tiny details, the veins in a leaf, the individual feathers on the wing of a bird, the minute ripples in the water of the river. You have to be so close to the paper that your nose is nearly touching the surface. You can smell the earthiness of the minerals and the faint, sweet scent of the mulberry paper. In this moment, the world of Edo, with all its noise and politics and commerce, completely disappears. There is only the point where the mouse whisker meets the washi. A light joke among the artisans of your guild is that a true master can paint a fly so realistically that a real fly will try to mate with it. While you aren't aiming for that level of biological confusion today, you do want to capture the essence of the floating world. You decide to add a few falling cherry blossom petals to the scene. These are not just flowers. They are a symbol of the transience of life, the idea that beauty is most precious because it is fleeting. You use the gofun, white, the crushed oyster shells you gathered yesterday, to create the petals. They look like tiny, luminous ghosts against the dark ink of the background. You apply them with a light, dabbing motion, making sure they don't look too symmetrical. Nature is rarely perfect, and a fan that is too perfect feels cold and lifeless. The patience required for this work is a form of discipline that borders on the spiritual. You have to wait for each layer of paint to dry completely before you can add the next. If you are impatient, the colors will bleed together into a muddy brown, and you will have wasted a day's worth of work. You use this downtime to sharpen your tools, or to simply sit and watch the light move across the garden. You notice the way the moss seems to drink the shadows, and the way the bamboo leaves shiver in the slightest breeze. This is the waiting that people often forget when they look at a piece of art. They see the final product, but they don't see the hours of sitting in silence, waiting for the world to be ready for the next stroke. You think about the contrast between your quiet workshop and the world outside your door. Just a few streets away, the fishmongers are shouting their prices, the children are running through the alleys, and the samurai are walking with a heavy, purposeful gait. There is so much movement, so much noise, and yet here you are, spending an entire hour trying to get the curve of a single leaf exactly right. It is a bit of a historical irony that the most bustling, crowded city in the world produces art that is defined by its stillness and its space. You realize that your job is to provide a container for that stillness. When someone opens your fan, they aren't just moving the air. They are opening a small window into a quieter, more balanced version of reality. The balance of water and ink is also a balance of the internal and the external. You have to be aware of the humidity in the air. On a damp, rainy day, the paper will absorb more moisture and the ink will spread more easily. On a dry, windy day, the paint will dry almost as soon as it touches the surface. You have to adjust your technique constantly, a silent negotiation with the atmosphere. It makes you feel connected to the weather in a way that most people aren't. You don't just care if it's raining because you don't want to get wet. You care because the rain changes the soul of your pigments. You are a weather vane made of flesh and bone, sensitive to every shift in the wind. You find yourself smiling at the thought of a perfect mistake. Sometimes a drop of water falls where it shouldn't, or a line goes a little further than you intended. In the hands of a beginner, this is a disaster. In the hands of a master, it is an opportunity. You can turn a smudge of ink into a distant mountain shrouded in mist, or a stray drop of blue into a hidden jewel in the grass. It is a philosophy of acceptance, the idea that you can't control everything, but you can certainly make it look intentional. It is the 18th century equivalent of, it's not a bug, it's a feature. And it is one of the most liberating parts of being an artist. It allows you to breathe, to relax, and to let the art tell you what it wants to be. The afternoon is reaching its peak, and the heat is starting to settle into the room. You find it ironic that you are sweating while painting a device designed to keep people cool. You wipe your forehead with a piece of scrap cloth, being very careful not to use the hand that is currently stained with deep indigo. There is a specific kind of ink finger, badge of honor among fan painters. No matter how much you wash, there is always a trace of blue or black under your fingernails or in the creases of your palms. It is a physical record of your life's work, a tattoo that you didn't ask for but have come to appreciate. It shows that you are someone who touches the world, someone who gets their hands dirty in the pursuit of something clean and beautiful. As you finish the fine details of the nightingale perched on the cherry branch, you feel a sense of completion. The bird looks as though it might burst into song at any moment, its tiny throat ruffled, and its eye bright with a dot of gofen white. The precision of the work has paid off. The lines are crisp, the shading is smooth, and the ma, or negative space, feels balanced and intentional. The fan leaf is no longer just a piece of paper. It is a world. You set the brush down, feeling the sudden weight of your exhaustion. Your hands are a little shaky, and your eyes are tired from the constant focus. But the satisfaction is immense. You take a moment to look out at the garden again. The shadows have shifted, and the light is beginning to take on that warm, late afternoon glow. You think about the order that is waiting for this fan. It is for a merchant's daughter who is about to be married. She will carry this fan on her wedding day, a small piece of beauty to help her navigate the nerves and the heat of the ceremony. Knowing that your work will be a part of such a significant moment in someone's life gives the labor an extra layer of meaning. You aren't just making an object, you are making a memory. And for that, every mouse whisker stroke and every minute spent warming the glue was worth it. The world outside is still there, waiting for you to rejoin it. But for now, you stay in the silence of the workshop, letting the paint dry and the stillness settle. The gentle art of painting a fan is a slow one, but it is in that slowness that the magic happens. You have mastered the balance of water and ink, and you have found the patience to let the paper speak. As the sun begins to dip lower, you prepare for the next step, knowing that you have done the hardest part. The soul of the fan is now visible, a delicate, vibrant story told in the language of the floating world. You take a deep breath, the scent of the workshop now a part of your own skin, and you feel a profound sense of peace. The bird on the cherry branch is now silent and still, its ink, wash feathers dried into the fibers of the washi. You look at it with a quiet sense of pride, but you know that in the competitive world of Edo fashion, a simple ink painting is sometimes not enough. The city has a deep, almost obsessive love for things that shimmer. As the afternoon light begins to angle even lower, hitting the floor in long, dusty bars of gold, you reach for a small, lacquered box that has been sitting at the edge of your bench. Inside this box is something so light that a single, poorly timed sigh could send a month's worth of profit fluttering into the rafters. This is the gold leaf, or kimpaku, and it is the ultimate symbol of status in a society that is strictly divided by rank and wealth. You open the lid with the slow, cautious movement of a person opening a door in a house they suspect might be haunted. The gold leaf is tucked between sheets of thin, handmade paper. It has been beaten so thin by the craftsmen in Kanazawa that it is practically transparent if you hold it up to the light. It is said that a single gram of gold can be hammered out to cover nearly a square meter of surface area. This is a mainstream historical fact that still leaves you shaking your head in disbelief every time you handle it. It is 18th century nanotechnology, achieved through nothing but a heavy hammer and a lot of patience. If you think your phone screen is delicate, try handling a sheet of metal that is only 0.001 millimeters thick. It doesn't just fold, it flows like a liquid made of light. Before you can apply the gold, you must prepare the surface. You use a very fine brush to apply a thin layer of size, which is essentially a specialized adhesive. In some cases, this might be a refined version of the animal glue you used earlier. But for the highest quality fans, you might use a clear, filtered lacquer. You apply the size only to the areas where you want the gold to stick. Perhaps the centers of the cherry blossoms, or the hem of the actor's robe, or as a shimmering mist rising from the blue river. This is a high-stakes game of connect the dots. If you spill a single drop of size where it doesn't belong, the gold will stick there too, and your elegant painting will suddenly look like it has been decorated by a very wealthy but very messy toddler. You find yourself thinking back to the ancient histories you've heard, perhaps even the ones where people used much stranger ingredients for beauty and protection. Remember that crocodile, dung sunscreen the travelers from the West used to talk about. You find a strange comfort in knowing that your materials, while expensive, are significantly less smelly. There is a certain dignity in gold that dung simply cannot provide, no matter how well it protects you from the sun. You use a pair of long, slender bamboo pincers to lift a sheet of the leaf. You cannot use your fingers. The natural oils on your skin would ruin the gold instantly, and the static electricity would make it wrap around your hand like a very expensive piece of plastic wrap. The room is completely silent now. You have even closed the shoji screens to prevent the slightest draft from entering. This is the sneeze of doom phase of the project. Historians still argue whether the gold on these fans was primarily intended to catch the flickering light of candles in dim tea houses to create a sense of movement, or if it was simply a loud, metallic way of saying, "I have more money than you." It was likely a bit of both. In the low light of an Edo evening, a fan with gold leaf highlights doesn't just sit there, it breathes. As the user moves the fan, the gold catches the light and throws it back, making the painted scene appear to come alive. It is the original special effect, a bit of cinematic magic that you can hold in your hand. You lay the gold leaf down over the size. It is a terrifying moment. The leaf hits the paper and immediately conforms to the texture of the washi and the peaks and valleys of the pleats. You use a very soft, dry brush made of squirrel hair to gently press the gold into place. The sound it makes is a tiny, microscopic crinkle, a sound so soft you can only feel it through the handle of the brush. Once the gold is down, you have to wait for the adhesive to set. You spend this time cleaning your workspace with a level of obsession that would make a modern hospital look dusty. Every tiny flake of gold that didn't stick to the size is carefully swept up with a special feather brush. These scraps are called gold dust, and they are not thrown away. They are saved to be mixed into paints or used for sunago, a technique where you sprinkle the dust over a damp surface to create a starry, sparkling effect. The merchant class in Edo is currently in a bit of a tug of war with the shogunate. There are laws, the kansi reforms, which are meant to stop people from being too flashy. The government wants everyone to know their place, and that place usually involves wearing plain, dark colors and avoiding unnecessary luxury. But the people of Edo are clever. This is where the fan becomes a masterpiece of social engineering. A fan can be closed, hiding all that forbidden gold and vibrant color within its folds. It is only when you are in a safe space, among friends or in the privacy of a theater box, that you flick the fan open and reveal the shimmer. It is a secret world of wealth and beauty that fits in your sleeve. You feel like a bit of a conspirator as you apply the gold, helping your clients navigate the complex rules of the city. You decide to add some sunago to the sky of your painting. You place some gold scraps into a small bamboo cylinder with a fine mesh at one end. You tap the cylinder gently over the fan, and a rain of golden light falls onto the paper. It is a beautiful, calming sight. The dust settles into the wet ink, creating a sense of depth and atmosphere that wasn't there before. It looks like the first stars of evening appearing over the Sumida River. You realize that you are not just painting a scene. You are capturing the very air of the city. The gold is the light of the lanterns, the reflection of the moon on the water, and the spark of ambition in the eyes of the people. As you work, your mind drifts to the quirky reality of the gold beaters. They spend their entire lives in small, dark rooms, rhythmically hammering pieces of gold between layers of special paper. They say that the beaters develop a sense of rhythm so perfect they can tell the thickness of the gold by the sound of the hammer hitting the stone. It is a world of sensory extremes. The heavy, rhythmic thud of the hammer followed by the silent, ethereal drift of the finished leaf. You feel a deep connection to these unknown craftsmen. Without their strength and their rhythm, your fan would be missing its glow. It is a reminder that every beautiful thing is the result of a long chain of human effort, most of it hidden from the final viewer. The sun is now low enough that it is actually shining directly into your workshop, turning the entire room into a golden chamber. The fan on your bench is glowing with an intensity that is almost blinding. You use a small, polished agate stone to burnish the gold in certain areas. This makes the gold even sheenier, changing it from a matte yellow to a brilliant, mirror-like surface. This is a mainstream historical fact. Burnishing was used to create different textures and levels of reflection on the same piece of art. You are essentially tuning the light, deciding exactly which parts of the fan will grab the viewer's attention. You burnish the edge of the actor's sword, making it look sharp and dangerous, and you leave the mist in the background matte and soft. A light joke you heard once at a guild meeting was that a fan maker's favorite weather is a total lack of wind. It's funny because it's true. On a windy day, working with gold leaf is like trying to organize a group of kittens into a straight line. You find yourself moving with a slow, deliberate grace, your body becoming a part of the quiet environment. You have learned to control your breathing, to move your hands in long, smooth arcs, and to anticipate the way the air moves through the room. It is a form of physical mastery that you don't even think about anymore. It is just the way you live. Your life is a series of small, careful movements designed to protect the fragile beauty you are creating. The gold work is nearly finished. You add one last detail, a tiny dot of gold in the center of the bird's eye. It is almost too small to see, but when the fan moves, that eye will catch the light for a split second, giving the bird a sense of intelligence and life. It is these tiny touches that separate a good fan from a legendary one. You want the person who holds this fan to keep discovering new things about it, even after they have owned it for years. You want the art to be a gift that keeps giving. You think about the merchant's daughter again. She will probably be nervous on her wedding day, her hands shaking slightly as she holds this fan. But when she looks down and sees the golden bird looking back at her, maybe she will feel a little bit of the calm you are feeling now. The application of gold leaf is also a test of your character. It is very easy to get carried away and cover the whole thing in gold, but that would be yabo or taki. The people of Edo value ukiyo-e, which is a sophisticated, restrained sense of style. You have to know when to stop. You have to let the paper and the ink have their own voices. The gold should be like a beautiful melody that enhances a song, not a loud noise that drowns it out. You step back from the bench, looking at the fan with a critical eye. Is it enough? Is it too much? You decide it is just right. The gold is a part of the story, not the whole story. You take a deep breath, finally allowing yourself to relax. The most stressful part of the day is over. The gold is set, the dust has been collected, and the fan is shimmering in the dying light. You feel a sense of accomplishment that is hard to describe. You have taken a piece of the earth's most precious metal and turned it into a whisper of light. You have navigated the rules of the city and the limits of the materials to create something that is both a tool and a treasure. The workshop is starting to grow dark now, the golden light of the sun fading into a deep, cool blue. You begin to pack away your tools. each one going back into its proper place with a soft, wooden sound. You think about the scholarly debate regarding the meaning of gold in Japanese art. Some say it represents the purity of the sun, while others say it is a Buddhist symbol of the ultimate reality beyond the physical world. For you, sitting here in your workshop in 18th century Edo, it is mostly just a really beautiful way to catch a breeze. But perhaps that is the same thing. Maybe beauty is the ultimate reality, and a cooling breeze is a form of purity. You don't need to have the answers, you just need to have the gold. You close the lacquered box, the remaining leaf safe for another day. The shimmer of status is now firmly attached to the washi paper, and the fan is ready for its final transformation. As you stand up to stretch, you hear the distant sound of a temple gong. It is a deep, resonant sound that seems to vibrate in your very bones. The day is ending, and the city is preparing for the night. You look at the fan one last time before you leave the bench. It is a small thing, but it contains so much. The bark of the mulberry tree, the stones of the mountains, the soot of the pine fire, the strength of the bamboo, and the light of the sun. It is a physical map of your world, and tomorrow you will put it all together. You feel a sense of peace as you move away from the workbench, the silence of the workshop wrapping around you like a warm robe. The golden dust has settled, and the shimmer of status is waiting for the morning. The journey of the fan is almost complete. You have moved through the morning mist, the gathering of colors, the carving of the frame, and the dreams of ink. Now, with the addition of the gold, the fan has its voice. It is ready to speak to the world, to tell the story of the artisan and the city of Edo. You find yourself looking forward to the final assembly, the moment when the paper and the bamboo become a single, living object. But for now, the gold needs to rest, and so do you. You walk toward the shoji screens, opening them to see the first stars appearing in the sky. They look remarkably like the gold dust on your fan, a reminder that beauty is everywhere if you know how to look for it. The final morning in your Edo workshop arrives with a quiet, silver light that feels almost heavy with anticipation. You sit at your bench, surrounded by the various pieces of your creation. There is the painted washi paper, its colors vibrant and its gold highlights catching the first rays of the sun. There is the bundle of bamboo ribs, each one carved to a perfect taper and polished until it glows like bone. And finally, there is the small, unassuming object that will bring it all together. The pivot pin, or the kaname. This tiny piece of material, often made of brass, whalebone, or even a hard wood, is the heart of the folding fan. It is a mainstream historical fact that the word kaname eventually became the Japanese term for the most essential part of anything, the linchpin, that holds a complex system together. Without this tiny pin, your fan would be nothing more than a collection of sticks and a folded piece of paper. With it, the fan becomes a machine, a tool of grace, and a masterpiece of engineering. You pick up the first of the ribs, holding it between your thumb and forefinger. You check the hole you drilled yesterday, ensuring it is clean and smooth. You begin to thread the pivot pin through the base of the guard stick, and then through each individual rib in turn. This is a rhythmic, focused task. You have to be careful not to force the pin. The bamboo is resilient, but it can split if the pressure is uneven. As you slide each rib onto the pin, You feel the fan beginning to take shape in your hands. It gains weight and a sense of unity. You can feel the tension of the wood as the ribs overlap, a series of layers that must move against each other with a perfect, sliding friction. It is a bit like threading a needle that is made of several different pieces of history, all converging at a single point in the palm of your hand. Once all the ribs are on the pin, you have to secure the end. You use a small, rounded hammer to gently flatten the tip of the metal pin, creating a rivet that will hold the assembly together for decades. The sound of the hammer against the metal is a soft, rhythmic tapping, a sound that has echoed in workshops like this for centuries. You find yourself thinking about the quirky tidbit that some travelers in the Edo period used their fans as secret diaries, writing tiny maps or poems on the inner surfaces of the ribs, where they would be hidden from prying eyes. Your fan, with its smooth, polished bamboo, could easily hold a lifetime of secrets. You enjoy the thought that you are building a container for someone's private thoughts as much as you are building a tool for the heat. Now comes the most difficult part of the entire process, joining the paper to the frame. You recall that earlier, you split the top edge of the washi paper to create tiny pockets for the ribs. Now, you must slide each thin bamboo slat into its corresponding pocket. This requires the patience of a saint and the precision of a clockmaker. You apply a tiny amount of high-quality rice paste to the tip of a rib, and then slowly, carefully, guide it into the paper. The paper is delicate, and the bamboo is thin. If you push too hard, you will tear the art. If you don't push far enough, the fan will not open correctly. It is a silent, high-stakes dance of alignment. You find yourself holding your breath as the first rib slides home, the paper settling around the wood with a soft, rustling sound that is almost like a sigh of relief. Historians still argue whether the folding fan moved from Japan to China in its most primitive form, or if the exchange of ideas was more of a circular journey over many centuries. Some believe that the Japanese sensu was a direct evolution of the ancient hyogi, wooden fans, while others suggest that the concept of a folding mechanism was influenced by the complex folding of ceremonial fans used in the Chinese court. Regardless of the academic debate, sitting here in your workshop, you know that the fan you are holding is a uniquely Japanese expression of beauty and function. It is a perfect balance of materials and a reflection of the city that surrounds you. You continue with the second rib, then the third, moving across the fan with a steady, practiced hand. As you work, you think about the social power of the object you are creating. In the hands of a skilled user, a fan can be used to beckon a friend, to dismiss an unwanted guest, or to punctuate a particularly witty remark. It is a tool of wordless communication, a way to navigate the complex social landscape of Edo without ever having to raise your voice. You imagine the merchant's daughter receiving this fan. She will feel the coolness of the bamboo and the strength of the paper. She will notice the way the gold catches the light and the way the bird seems to hover on the cherry branch. She will know that this object was made specifically for her, a small piece of permanence in a world that is always changing. This sense of connection between the maker and the user is what makes the long hours of labor feel meaningful. The rice paste you are using is made from the finest white rice, boiled and mashed until it is a smooth, translucent glue. It is strong enough to hold the fan together for a lifetime, but it is also flexible, allowing the paper to move and breathe as the fan is opened and closed. This is another mainstream historical fact of the era. The materials of everyday life were often the same as the materials of art. Rice was food, it was currency, and it was the glue that held the culture together. You find a certain beauty in this simplicity. You aren't using strange, synthetic chemicals. You are using the bounty of the earth to create something that transcends the earth. It is a cycle of life and creativity that you are proud to be a part of. The task of inserting the ribs is nearly complete. You reach the final guard stick, the thickest and strongest part of the frame. This piece requires extra care, as it must be perfectly aligned with the edge of the paper to ensure a clean, sharp look when the fan is closed. You apply the last bit of paste and slide the guard stick into place. The fan is now a single, unified object. You hold it in your hands, feeling the balance of the weight. It is light, yet it feels substantial. It is fragile, yet it feels strong. You take a moment to admire the way the pleats align perfectly with the ribs. The geometry you worked so hard on yesterday has paid off. The fan is a masterpiece of symmetry and proportion. Now, you must allow the glue to dry. You place the fan in a special wooden press that keeps the pleats tight and ensures that the paper bonds firmly to the bamboo. This is a time of waiting, a time for the materials to finish the work that you started. You spend the hour cleaning your workshop, putting away the paints, the brushes, and the carving tools. Each item has its place, and as you return them to their spots, you feel a sense of closing a chapter. The journey of this fan began with a walk to the color merchant and a bundle of raw bamboo, and now it is almost ready to fly. You look around the room, the silence feeling heavy and satisfied. You have done your best, and the result is now in the hands of time and nature. While you wait, you think about the hidden uses of fans in Edo. There is a fringe historical tidbit that suggests some fans were designed with secret compartments in the guard sticks for carrying small messages or even medicinal powders. While your fan is more traditional, you like the idea that a fan could be a vessel for secrets. It makes the object feel more like a living thing, something that participates in the life of the person who carries it. You also think about the tesson, the war fans made of iron that samurai carried into places where weapons were forbidden. It is a bit of a historical irony that the same basic design can be used for both a weapon of war and a tool of beauty. It shows the incredible versatility of the form. The sun is high in the sky now, and the heat of the afternoon is beginning to settle over the city. You decide it is time for the final test. You remove the fan from the press, the wood feeling cool and smooth in your hands. This is the moment of truth. You hold the fan by the base, your thumb resting against the guard stick. With a quick, practiced flick of your wrist, you open the fan. The sound it makes is a soft, rhythmic rustle of paper meeting bamboo, a sound that is both crisp and gentle. The fan opens in a perfect, wide arc, the painting of the actor, and the bird revealed in all its golden glory. It is more beautiful than you imagined. The colors are deep and rich. The gold catches the light perfectly, and the balance of the fan is flawless. You move the fan back and forth, feeling the gentle breeze it creates. The air is cool and refreshing, a small piece of comfort in the humid afternoon. You watch the way the painting moves as the fan waves, the bird appearing to fly, and the river appearing to flow. This is the floating world, in action, a dynamic, moving piece of art that changes with every motion of the hand. You feel a sudden wave of joy, the kind that only comes from creating something that works exactly as it should. You close the fan with another flick of your wrist, the paper folding back into its neat, sharp pleats with a satisfying, wooden sound. It is a perfect cycle of opening and closing, revealing and hiding. You spend the last part of the afternoon adding the finishing touches. You attach a small, silk tassel to the pivot pin, a bit of extra elegance that matches the colors of the painting. The tassel is a deep indigo blue, providing a nice contrast to the golden bamboo. You also carefully sign your name on the inside of the guard stick, a small, discreet mark that identifies you as the creator. This is your legacy, a tiny piece of your identity that will travel with the fan wherever it goes. You feel a sense of connection to all the artisans who came before you and all those who will come after. You are part of a tradition that celebrates the beauty of the everyday and the value of a job well done. As the evening begins to approach, you prepare to deliver the fan to the merchant's shop. You wrap it in a piece of soft, patterned fabric and place it in a small, Polonia wood box. This wood is chosen because it is incredibly light and resistant to moisture, ensuring that the fan remains safe and dry even in the humid climate of Japan. You tie the box with a simple, elegant cord. The final act of preparation. You feel a bit like a parent sending a child out into the world. You have spent so much time with this object, and now it belongs to someone else. But that is the way of the artisan. Your job is to create the beauty, and then let it go so that others can enjoy it. The walk through the city is different this evening. The light is soft and golden, turning the streets into a scene from one of your own paintings. You see people using their fans to shield their eyes from the setting sun or to move the warm air as they walk home from work. You feel a sense of kinship with every one of them. You know the weight of the bamboo they are holding and the texture of the paper they are touching. You understand the effort that went into making those objects and the comfort they provide. The city of Edo is a city of fans, a place where a cooling breeze is a shared human experience. You deliver the box to the merchant, who accepts it with a deep bow of respect. He opens the box and inspects the fan, his eyes lingering on the gold leaf and the precision of the pleats. He smiles, a slow, genuine expression of appreciation. He knows the quality of your work, and he knows that his daughter will be proud to carry this fan on her wedding day. This moment of recognition is the ultimate reward for your labor. It is the confirmation that you have succeeded in your goal of creating something of value and beauty. You bow in return, feeling a sense of closure and peace. The work is done, and the fan has found its home. Walking back to your workshop, you notice the first stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. The air is starting to cool, and the sound of the city is softening into a gentle hum. You feel a deep, physical tiredness, but it is a good kind of tired, the kind that comes from a day spent in purposeful action. You have moved through the entire process of creation, from the raw materials of the earth to the finished masterpiece in the merchant's hands. You have mastered the geometry of the bamboo, the dreams of ink, and the shimmer of status. You have found the balance of water and ink, and the patience of the folding shadows. You have been a part of the gentle art of the fan, and it has been a part of you. Back in your garden, you sit on the wooden veranda, looking out at the moss and the stone lantern. The night is quiet and still, the only sound being the distant chime of a bell. You think about the cycle of the seasons and the cycle of your work. Tomorrow, you will start again. There will be new paper to size, new pigments to grind, and new bamboo to carve. There will be new stories to tell and new breezes to catch. But for tonight, you can simply rest. You can let the world go on without you for a few hours, knowing that you have contributed your small piece of beauty to the floating world. The stars above are a reminder that the universe is vast and mysterious. But the fan in your mind is a reminder that even the smallest thing can be perfect. You feel your shoulders loosen and your breathing slow down. The events of the day fade into the background, replaced by the soft, rhythmic pulse of the night. You have done your job well, and the world is a little bit more beautiful because of it. The journey of the fan is complete, and your own journey towards sleep has begun. You close your eyes, the image of the golden bird on the cherry branch floating in your mind. It is a peaceful, comforting thought, a symbol of the grace and resilience of the artisan's spirit. You drift off into a dreamless sleep, the quiet of the Edo night wrapping around you like a soft, silk robe. Now, let the images of the day slowly fade away like ink in clear water. Your work is finished, and the tools are all put away in their proper places. Feel the weight of your body sinking into the soft, familiar comfort of your bed, just as the bamboo ribs settled into the paper pockets. There is nothing more you need to do, no more lines to draw, no more gold to polish. The world of Edo is quiet now, the lanterns are dim, and the only sound is the soft, steady hum of the evening air. Imagine the gentle breeze of a fan moving across your face, a light and rhythmic touch that carries away the last of your thoughts. Each breath you take is slow and deep, like the long, steady strokes of a brush across washi paper. You are safe, you are warm, and you are exactly where you need to be. Let your mind drift like a falling cherry blossom, spiraling slowly down toward a place of perfect stillness and rest. The stories of the past are now just a whisper in the distance, a soft echo of a world that understood the value of patience and the beauty of a single moment. You are a part of that peace now. Let the darkness be a soft blanket, tucking you in and protecting your dreams. There is a profound comfort in the silence, a sense of rightness that fills the room. Sleep is a gentle art, and you are a master of it. Let go of the day, let go of the work, and let yourself be carried away on the wings of the night. Everything is balanced, everything is calm, and everything is beautiful.